AZ, former king of the Kalos region and the #1 popular pick in the NBA draft. Or what I like to sometimes call him, Potential Man. Since AZ arguably had the most destructive impact in the world when it comes to human Pokemon characters, yet his character was explored in a pretty surface level manner in X and Y's main story, where if AZ was given a bit more time in the spotlight both in the present and going into more specific details about his past as a king, like the different kinds of situations he might have gotten himself into while wandering the earth, but mostly doing more in the present, he might have been able to dethrone N as my favorite written or tragic character in all the Pokemon games. AZ of course made his Pokemon series debut in Pokemon X and Y as the former king of the Kalos region, where he would one day create an ultimate weapon that was powered by the life source of Pokemon in hopes of bringing his partner Pokemon Floette back to life. This drastic decision would bring AZ nothing but pain for thousands of years, where he would continue to wander the earth as a nomad, hoping to atone for his sins in some way. Now that AZ has made his official return to the mainline Pokemon games in Legend ZA, which released not too long ago, I wanted to take this video to go over everything about this towering beast of a man. Very similar to how the King K. Rool video was structured. For context, there isn't a whole lot of public information about AZ's development with Game Freak. However, he does share a lot of similarities with the ancient King Gilgamesh, as Gilgamesh was a king of unnaturally tall stature and went on a quest for eternal life after his closest friend Enkidu died. Now when it comes to AZ's rocky past as we know it, 3,000 years before present day Pokemon X and Y, AZ would rule over the Kalos region as its king during a time of war with another region. The other region was never specified in-game, but many have made it their headcanon that it was the Galar region, due to the countries they're based on, France and the United Kingdom respectively, basically bordering each other in the real world. Many of the people who participated in this war treated their Pokemon inhumanely, seeing them as nothing more than tools to help increase their chances of victory in this war. Even King AZ himself was not safe from participating, as his beloved partner Pokemon Floette, whom he received from his deceased mother as a young boy, would be forced into war against his wishes, leading to Floette losing its life in a battle it didn't even want to partake in, not even getting to see the body of his best friend until years after Floette's death. This tragic loss sent AZ into a complete mental spiral. He'd begin his plan to build an ultimate weapon with the intended purpose to bring his Floette back to life and win the war. This weapon had the power to not only completely annihilate the life of its targets, but could restore the life of previous organic life as well. AZ would power this weapon with the life forces of other Pokemon, so it was powerful enough to completely wipe out the enemy forces, but also bring his Floette back to life. However, the now revived Floette didn't recognize the person AZ had become. He had completely lost his way to resort to using the life energy of other Pokemon just to bring his friend back. As a result, Floette would abandon AZ, leaving him alone for the next 3,000 years.
Please come home! I'm a wreck without you!
And because of AZ's exposure to the ultimate weapon's powers, he and his Floette would be granted extended life, and AZ grew to about 9 feet tall. According to Dexio, AZ is around the same height as a Seviper, which is 8'10" from tail to head. After Floette's abandonment, AZ would presumably resign from his position as King 2, which led to AZ's unnamed younger brother stepping in to take some charge. According to Lysander Labs documents, AZ's brother would bury the ultimate weapon under Geosenge Town, hoping it would never fall into the wrong hands again. Granted, AZ's brother was never able to get the key to the ultimate weapon back from AZ himself, which he kept around his neck for all those years. Some details about AZ's past is explored in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire's Delta episode. AZ visited Hoenn's Cave of Origin and planted a tree there, where a flower can be seen bearing a striking resemblance to the flower his Floette always holds. We know it was him because while it's explicitly stated the tree was planted by a huge man from the Kalos region, Zinnia also claims AZ caught a glimpse of Primal Groudon, Kyogre, and Mega Rayquaza duking it out too. I know this isn't the case all the time since characters like Looker, Red, and Blue exist, but why are some Pokemon games afraid to show certain characters with a lot of importance and lore in different regions than their own? I think showing a full flashback of AZ and Hoenn would have hit a lot harder than just hearing about it, via word of mouth. It's like if Emerald off-screened the whole Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza clash. 1,000 years later, AZ would return to Kalos, hoping maybe his Floette had returned to the place where the tragedy began. He can be found by the player on Route 13 for a brief moment, mumbling to himself about his Floette. At some point off-screen, the game's main antagonist Lysander kidnaps AZ and places him in a jail cell in Lysander Labs, with the intent of reviving the ultimate weapon to destroy modern society so the planet can become a pure paradise without any war or struggles. We also learn around this same time Lysander is a descendant of AZ's younger brother, which I guess makes AZ Lysander Lysander's Grunkle with, I don't know, 50 greats in front of it. This section of the game really highlights how arrogant Lysander is. Like, even though AZ's younger brother went out of his way to hide the ultimate weapon so it couldn't be used again, and AZ himself still living as walking proof that using the ultimate weapon brings nothing but despair, Lysander still wants to use it anyway. I know he's the evil team boss of the game and all that, but for someone so involved in scientific research like creating the Holocaster, this brother's kind of a dumbass. Depending on the game, Lysander will use the power of either Xerneas or Yveltal to power the ultimate weapon. Although once he's defeated in battle and the legendary Pokemon are caught/defeated, he makes one last-ditch effort to bury everyone with him using one final blast. But the player is able to escape quickly enough where Lysander remained in the collapsing structure and his fate unknown at the time. AZ then thanks you for stopping the ultimate weapon since now it's truly unusable for the future. AZ wouldn't be seen again until the Pokemon League is conquered, where he challenges the player to a battle, wishing to know the true meaning behind being a trainer, and regardless of the outcome, the story will still progress. Not gonna lie, him having only 3 Pokemon was a bit lame. For someone who's been alive that long, you'd think he'd have a full team of 6. Not much of a theme going on either from what I can tell. I guess Golurk and Sigilyph kind of have the ancient times look going on, which fits for AZ being the oldest living Pokemon character, but then you throw Torkoal in there and it's like,
What?
maybe I'm missing something here, I don't know. When the battle concludes, AZ thanks you for freeing him from an endless torment, when suddenly, the Floette that left his side 3,000 years ago descends from the skies, where the two of them have a heartfelt reunion and would be partners again, just like old times. Because Gen 6 hadn't gotten any kind of remakes or sequels yet, AZ's appearances from then onwards were all in different forms of Pokemon media. One of the more notable ones being the Pokemon Generations anime, a series of 18 different animated shorts that ranged between 3 to 5 minutes that ran from September 16th to December 23rd, 2016. Each one focusing on a small set of characters' journeys, like the very first one being about Trainer Red. AZ's episode was titled The Redemption, and it was the final episode of the series. It more or less covers AZ's past during the Ultimate Weapon era, only it's through the lens of a mother telling her daughter the story of AZ's past as she watches him approach Callum, aka the male X and Y trainer, for a battle. I really like how this animated short was able to go a bit more in depth about how the Kalos War actually looked with the Pokemon having to fight and all that. Obviously, they can't make it too intense since that's not Pokemon style, but it's still a little bit of an improvement from the few visuals X and Y had. It also gave us a better look at how AZ looked in the past. Like his face, his physique was mostly the same, but he had brown hair instead of gray and wore pretty tattered clothing, which makes sense considering how many years ago the war took place. If we were to go off of real-world times, AZ's time of rule would have been around the same time ancient Egypt was collapsing, if I'm not mistaken. After the backstory is told, the rest of the episode plays out just like X and Y's story, with AZ losing against Callum and AZ's Floette descending from the skies to reunite with him. AZ would also appear in the Pokemon Adventures manga series X and Y Arc. This manga series by Hidenori Kusaka has been ongoing since 1997 and currently has over 60 volumes. It's essentially Pokemon's version of the Super Mario Kun manga that I briefly covered on previous videos on the channel. Quick disclaimer, I wasn't able to find any English versions of these chapters online, only in Spanish or French, so if you're wondering why the panels I'll be showing aren't in English, that's why. Just like in X and Y, AZ was captured by Team Flare because he was the one holding the key to the ultimate weapon. However, Emma was the first one to find him instead of Callum or Serena. For those who don't remember, Emma was an orphan girl who played a pivotal role in X and Y's Looker side quest, where she now works as a detective in Legend ZA, just like Looker. He starts to freak out a bit after realizing the key is gone, and a couple chapters later, Tierno, Trevor, and Shauna pass by his cell, as those guys and the Kalos gym leaders had traveled to Geosend Town to help stop the ultimate weapon from going off via the power of Xerneas. He has a cute moment with Trevor's Flabebe too, which is nice. It makes sense he'd feel this way with Flabebe being Floette's pre-evolution Pokemon and all. The group frees AZ from his cell, where they all rush to the ultimate weapon's control area, where they find Callum, or X as the manga calls him, defeated by Lysander. But before losing, he was able to free Xerneas from the ultimate weapon's control. And since Xerneas has no hostility towards the protagonist group, this not only allowed for enough time to pass for the weapon to lose enough power to fulfill Lysander's goal, but for Xerneas to bring the rest of the crew back to the surface while AZ stalled Team Flare. AZ appeared again about 5 chapters later, revealing his escape from Team Flare's base and his ominous warning to them about how their devious acts have caught the attention of Zygarde. This only encouraged Team Flare though, because Lysander was able to gain control over Zygarde a bit, just like with Xerneas. But after he's truly defeated at the hands of X, as well as sustaining a severe spinal cord injury, AZ would once again approach the main group in Lumio City. For whatever reason, AZ's moral compass began to revert a bit back to his old self, saying Team Flare's ambitions weren't strong enough and how he's not happy with the rest of Kalos currently shunning the kids despite their hand in saving the region, now intending to reactivate the ultimate weapon himself again. They tried to stop him, but were intercepted by his Golurk. It wasn't until one of Golurk's attacks almost hit Y/Serena where AZ intervened and took the hit for her. He survived the hit and quickly realized how insane he was acting, so he crushed the ultimate weapon's key with his bare hands. This was enough to reach Floette's heart, where he was beside himself to see it return to him again 3,000 years later. I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's nice how this manga was able to give AZ more time to actually get things done in the present day compared to the games. Tanking that hit from the Golurk to save Serena carries a bit more emotional weight to it than only battling him like in the games. It's a shame that this manga isn't more accessible outside of buying physical volumes to be delivered to your residence, because it's really good. You know, there's a lot more story focus going on here if that's something you're interested in. The only other time AZ appeared in a notable Pokemon media pre-2025 was in the 2014 TCG set Phantom Forces as a trainer card. This card acted as a support card that's purpose was to put one of your cards in your hand and then discard all the cards attached to that first Pokemon. I'm not well versed in the competitive side of TCG, so I'm not sure how good or bad that is, but maybe somebody could tell me. AZ was one of 3 trainer cards in this set, along with Lysander and Xerosic. Out of curiosity, I checked how much this card was worth, and its average price raw is around 20 bucks, while PSA 10 last sold for around 792 USD. The only listing I saw for a 10 on eBay currently is a 5 grand though. That's gotta be money laundering at that point, right? I was tempted to get this card raw, but every listing I saw looked like this card had been chewed on by a wild animal. It is what it is. The TCG hobby is rough these days. AZ's appearances for a while after this were kind of non-existent. No more TCG appearances and nothing related to mobile games like Master ZX or Pokemon Go either. But with the announcement of Legends ZA in 2014 confirmed to take place in Lumio City, many believed AZ, along with other X and Y characters, could return if the game took place in the future as opposed to the past. Well, even if it took place in the past, AZ could have still showed up, but that's besides the point. Although Legends ZA was announced in early 2024, no proper gameplay would be shown until the following Pokemon Day Presents in February 2025. The trailer went into a bit of detail about how AZ was now the owner of a hotel called Hotel Z in Lumio City. With his Floette still by his side, he allowed the main protagonist group to use this hotel as their home base of sorts whenever they needed to have meetings about oddities taking place throughout Lumios. From here on out, I'm going to be delving into some, heavy story spoilers about this game, so if that's something you want to experience yourself firsthand, I strongly suggest coming back to this video once you've done so. Okay, warning over. As I said briefly, AZ now runs a hotel in Lumios called Hotel Z, where on the surface his main duty is looking after not only the hotel, but the members of Team MZ, supporting them whenever he can so they can climb the ranks in the ZA Battle Royale. But this is AZ we're talking about, so there's still some fishy activities going on. The opening cutscene of ZA shows the Prism Tower in Lumio City mysteriously glowing, where AZ and his Floette slowly approach, hoping that an ultimate Mega Evolution trainer will one day come to control the tower for themselves. During the first Battle Royale section, you, Tawny, or Urbane will be ambushed by 3 trainers, but AZ's Floette swoops in to save them before the trainers can properly engage.
I'm a fire in my laser!
With that over, the 2 trainers return to Hotel Z and are greeted by AZ at the lobby. He tries to play it cool, but notices one of Zygarde's cells crawling out of your satchel, later thinking to himself if we're the ones with the power to use Prism Tower if Zygarde caught our attention. Around the time you reach rank W, the gimmick of Rogue Mega Evolution starts popping up, a phenomenon where certain Pokemon will Mega Evolve in the wild without a trainer using a Mega Stone. The first one to appear is Absol, where upon reaching its location, AZ shows up in the nick of time to give you the Mega Ring and the Stone to temporarily use a Mega Lucario. We also learn Vinny and Jet from Quasartico have been investigating this problem behind the scenes ever since AZ showed up at Quasartico 2 years before the events of this game. He sensed the energy that caused Rogue Mega Evolution getting closer, proposing they look into this because according to him, Lumios was crying out in pain. Lo and behold, 6 months later, a Rogue Mega Pidgeot showed up. This forced AZ's hand to neutralize the threat with his Floette. However, due to his old age, battling for long periods of time wasn't his strong suit, so he couldn't do this long term. That's where Team MZ comes in to help tackle these issues wherever they arise. Returning to the hotel after the meeting with Vinny shows AZ pretty excited for you to take on this problem, showing his gratitude by giving you the Mega Stone for either Meganium, Emboar, or Feraligatr, depending on the starter chosen at the start of the game. Further saying, people finding a way to live together with Pokemon will be the true test that decides the survival of both species. AZ lays low for a bit for some time until the quest involving Tawny's debt to the Rust Syndicate comes into play, suggesting it's best if we talk it out with them to see where that leads since Tawny/Urbane is MIA for the entire early section of this quest. From this point on, AZ's interactions with us are relatively minimal, mostly continuing to bring up needing an ultimate Mega Evolution user to control Prism Tower, specifically using his Floette to Mega Evolve, as since she's a special Floette that was revived through the power of deceased Pokemon, it's impossible for her to evolve into Florges, so she can Mega Evolve into into Floette. It isn't until around the time rank C in the Royale is achieved where AZ's past comes into play a bit more in the current ZA story. There are two characters named Grisham and Grizel who are introduced pretty early on, seeming like honest folk who run a coffee business, but in actuality, they're part of a new version of Team Flare called Team Flare Nouveau. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Like the rest of Team MZ, they also want to reach the highest rank at the Royale to control Prison Tower. However, their backstories are a bit more messed up than the other trainers. Because they were new recruits when Team Flare was forced to disband by callous law, they were outcast by the rest of society due to their affiliation with the team. And Mabel, the Pokédex professor, who was also part of Team Flare, only got to her position because she took a plea deal. Grisham and Grizel weren't so lucky. So naturally, they developed lots of resentment towards Lysander for his obsession with reviving the ultimate weapon, and AZ for creating it in the first place. These two suggest exploring the now abandoned Lysander labs to learn the truth of what happened. In the Basement 3 level, the computers give a quick recap about the ultimate weapon's revival, like how it was located under Geosenge Town, how Xerneas or Yveltal would be involved with its resurrection, all that good stuff. When suddenly, Lysander shows up with the dog Zygarde to give more context to his plan 5 years ago. Apparently 2,000 years before the main story, AZ was approached by an unnamed yet powerful man who claimed he needed AZ's help to protect Kalos. So in an attempt to atone for his sins, he created a device that would give eternal life rather than take life away. This device would be named Ange. He wanted to use it once he and Floette reunited, but obviously that didn't happen in time since he can't properly battle anymore. But for an unknown reason, Lysander activating the ultimate weapon 5 years ago would also activate Ange, supposedly because Lysander didn't activate the ultimate weapon properly. The only reason Lysander survived the explosion was because Zygarde saved his life, where he now walks the earth similar to AZ, hoping he can atone as well by finding a trainer worthy of using Zygarde's power to stop what Ange might become. Returning to Hotel Z after these revelations forces AZ to go in depth about his violent past. While the images and angles of the cutscenes looked borderline identical to how they were in X and Y, I suppose it was nice to see it animated in-game after all this time. Everyone except Naveen seemed to respect AZ's willingness to atone for his sins over the years, Naveen lashing out a bit, believing the risk to control Ange isn't worth it anymore for someone like AZ at the risk of their own lives, which, honestly fair, that brother was a terrorist. Overnight, after A rank is reached in the Royale, all of Team MZ is awoken by the quakes of Prison Tower about to burst with Mega Energy. The time had come for the ultimate Mega Evolution trainer and Floette to tame Ange. Since Tawny/Urbane also reached rank A, a battle ensues to see who's worthy of commanding Floette. But even if you win, they get to use Floette anyway since we need to be the ones to command Zygarde. Which, yeah, sure. But of course, trying to command the tower fails. Perhaps they weren't worthy, not sure. Regardless, with the tower going berserk, tons of rogue Mega Evolutions started spawning around the city, forcing us to take them all out with the help of other main high-ranked trainers from the Royale like Corbeau, Ivor, Canary, Gwen, and Grisham. Not gonna lie, I thought my team was pretty over-leveled for a bit, but these sections were actually kinda tough for modern Pokemon standards. Getting through this gauntlet is enough to convince Zygarde we're finally worthy to command it, transforming into its 100% form to assist us in taking down Ange for good. Fighting its tentacles while Zygarde attacks in between can only do so much though, because Ange tries to unleash one final attack using Floette's Light of Ruin power. The only thing left is to Mega Evolve Zygarde to interrupt the blast, allowing some nice looking firework type dust to glitter over the city while AZ thanks us for bringing peace finally. Now AZ feels like he can rest in peace after everything he's experienced, with Team MZ visiting his grave a few days after the Ange incident. His parting words coming in a letter left in your room, where he thanks you by giving you the same Lucario you battled with for the first time in Rogue Mega Evolution, who was implied to be originally owned by Kalos gym leader Corinna, complimenting us by calling us the greatest trainer he's encountered in his entire 3,000-year-old life, as well as thanking the rest of Team MZ for all the joy they've been able to bring him during his final moments. Obviously, they're not going to show a character dying on screen in a Pokemon game, but seeing the main characters visit the grave of a character who played such a major role in Kalos' past and kind of present, at least in ZA's case, was kind of wild to me. You know, we're not really used to that in Pokemon games, I guess. I'm going to hell anyway, though, because my mind immediately went to the Mr. Millipede Smiling Friend scene with the way it transitioned to the cemetery.
Well, there is my trusty sidekick, Mr. Millipede. I wonder what he's up to.
I am so sorry, Gwimbly.
As for closing thoughts, while I do believe AZ's extra presence in ZA was better than how he was handled in X and Y, I still feel like there was a bit to be desired here, probably due to the focus being way more on his Floette's ties to Ange rather than AZ participating in present events. I guess I kinda wish he could have went out better, because in the end, he was still Potential Man to me. It is what it is. But if there's one thing I've learned after beating ZA's main story, is Clement needs to be fired. How did that guy never detect Ange was hidden in the tower? I will never know. Sorry, I'm cherry picking. I'm gonna go Shiny Hunt and Alpha Drampa now. Have a good one.